Congressman Collins, thank you so much for speaking with us. We appreciate it. Hey, I want to ask you about just last week, President Trump brought you on stage with Clay Fuller, who he has endorsed to fill former Congresswoman Green's seat.
Yeah.
What would a President Trump endorsement mean for your race?
Well, I think it means the world to anybody that gets this endorsement because it's an honor and a privilege to have that. If you're a true American First agenda candidate out there and you believe in MAGA, then sure you want the president's support.
Do you think this is an indication that you might get that endorsement?
Well, I never ever speak for the president of the United States. I mean, that man's got impeccable timing to put his stamp of approval on who he wants to endorse at the right time. So I would never speak for that. At the end of the day, I look forward to getting the support that we need.
I want to ask you about a facility in one of your jurisdictions, Social Circle. Why choose Social Circle for this immigration facility?
Well, it was an alternate site now. It was not one of the first ones that they had looked at, but it was the one that they decided that they could land on and use. And in doing so, hey, I'm all for helping DHS, and I'm behind that to make sure that we get rid of these illegal criminals that have been throughout our country and wreaking havoc and murder and mayhem. And so in order to do that, they have to set up these processing facilities. But I also understand Social Circle's concerns from not just an infrastructure, but resources that may be needed. And so it's nice to see DHS is working with them, talking with them. There's a lot of communicating going back and forth to make sure that they address their concerns and alleviate any of the concerns that they may have.
Now, I want to ask you, too, because I know that some of the leaders there say that you have been the prime kind of communicator between DHS and Social Circle. They did put out, at least the city government put out a letter kind of detailing everything. In that letter, they were still concerned that there hadn't been much transparency. What can you say right now to make sure that the people of Social Circle know that you will be delivering all of that news that you're talking to DHS?
Well, it's important that we communicate with them in a timely manner. I'm a firm believer in communication. I think that's, in my opinion, a lot of times networking and talking to people is just as important as anything that you'll ever do physically. But, DHS has even offered to come down and hold a conference.
When will they do that?
Well, the government's shut down right now, so you need to get a hold of John Ossoff and tell him to help open this government back up because, DHS is what's shut down. So the only way they can communicate is by phones right now. But they are still in contact and they're still working through the issues to try to resolve this. The concerns that the local people have.
Right, the infrastructure.
Yeah.
Another question for you on this. When did you learn that the facility was coming to Social Circle, and what are those plans to make sure that infrastructure is built out?
Goodness, I would have to look back to see the exact dates, but we knew when y'all knew and when Social Circle knew the 1st of January in that time frame that Social Circle was being looked at, but we didn't know that it was the final decision or one of the final places here in the state of Georgia. I would have to look back and see the exact date.
What plans do you know about to make sure, because there's concern that this facility was for Amazon or manufacturing, not to house people. What do you know from DHS? What are they telling you about?
DHS will build it out. They will build it out. They will actually, if they need to, do a lot of self-containment on whatever they need to. And whether that's wastewater, or fresh water, however they need to look at doing to getting that up and running. And the last thing they want to do is have a negative impact on the community. And so that's one reason that they, you see them continually talking and communicating with Social Circle.
What can you do to make sure that there is not a negative impact on that community?
Well, you just continuously talk and make sure that they understand. If there's the last thing you want to do is give people an answer, and if they don't understand it, then to walk away from it. You need to make sure that you're all on the same page. It doesn't matter how often you communicate or how many times you communicate. But at the end of the day, they all need to know exactly what's going on, how the structure is set up, and the process.
If things don't go the way the city leaders and residents want it to go, are you prepared to walk away?
Well, I don't know what I would walk away from. I mean, this is a DHS decision. This is not a congressional decision. They've purchased the piece of property and the building already.
So it's happening.
Well, it's happening, but we want to make sure that everything that they have had concern. I don't think anybody doesn't want to get these illegals out of our country. They do. They understand that, and they've communicated that with me. They just want to make sure that they're not negatively impacted through infrastructure or resources that they may not be able to provide.
You mentioned the shutdown. I want to ask you about that. I talked to Congresswoman Williams the day of the State of the Union. She said Democrats are ready to negotiate, Republicans are not. What's your response to that?
I just go and open up the government. It doesn't make any sense while Democrats like John Ossoff are willing to keep this government shut down to back illegal immigrants and aliens, and especially criminals in this case, that are in our country. And you're talking about workers that are not getting paid, and we just talked about the DHS that can't go anywhere. People that are out, you've got DHS, you've got TSA, FEMA, and Coast Guard that are out there doing their job but not getting paid because people like John Ossoff would rather take up for some illegal criminal instead of deport them. People like the murderer that murdered Laken Riley. And it just doesn't make sense. You know, I think that it was a glaring example when the President of the United States said, stand up if you will stand up and put Americans in front of illegals, and the Democrats didn't stand up.
And then my last question for you, because I know you're going to get pulled away here. Is there anything that you could see a consensus coming to agreement with Democrats, any of their demands that you could get behind to get the government open?
Their demands, no. They just need to reopen the government. They need to reopen DHS and get those moving. ICE and Border Patrol are out there doing their job. We funded that in the big, beautiful bill, budget reconciliation, whatever you want to call it. That was funded. They're out there getting their job done. But your TSA, your FEMA workers, and your Coast Guard, no, they're not. They're not getting paid.
And then if I could get a bonus question, just because we are here with the Young Republicans, how important is the Young Republican vote?
Extremely. I'll tell you something. One of the reasons I went to Congress was because my kids didn't have the opportunities that I had when I was their age to start a business in my mid-20s. And I wanted to make sure that they understand I am up there fighting for them to make sure that we get those opportunities back.
How about those young people that aren't Republicans, maybe on the fence?
Hey, I would love to talk to them too. Opportunities are opportunities for everybody. And as somebody that was in the private sector during the first Trump administration, I saw all the boats that were lifted during those policies. That was another reason I went. I wanted those things back.